In his first book, the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russia Hoax, Fox News legal and political analyst Greg Jarrett detailed the scheme by the FBI and Department of Justice to bring down Donald Trump during the 2016 election. All of Jarrett's claims in that book were borne out by the Mueller report released earlier this year. Now Jarrett is back with an explosive follow-up, Witch Hunt, the story of the greatest mass delusion in American political history. In it, Jarrett contends that a small group of powerful government officials colluded with others and broke numerous laws to convince tens of millions that the president is a traitor without a shred of evidence.
Well, Greg joins us from New York, and Greg, welcome back. Fabulous book.
Pat, thanks.
Tell us what you had about Rod Rosenstein. He appointed Mueller and started this whole thing. What was the behind the scenes? We've got Peter Strzok, we've got Lisa Page, we've got all those people. Who are the main actors?
Well, the main actors are James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr at the Department of Justice, but most of all, the malevolent Rod Rosenstein. It turns out that when Rosenstein appointed the special counsel Bob Mueller, he knew there was no evidence of collusion. And so he made the appointment and this 22-month-long national nightmare, not because the law or evidence merited it, but because he grew angry. It was an act of vengeance against President Trump. Rosenstein, who had authored the memo recommending Comey's firing, became the butt of criticism. He became overwrought, emotional, and angry at Trump. So in a fit of pique and spite, he decided to investigate the president, even though he knew there was no collusion. At the same time, he then plots with Andrew McCabe behind closed doors to wear a secret wire and recruit cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment. And when it's all discovered, he rushes to the White House begging for his job. He boards Air Force One, and the president asks him, "Is this true? Did you do this?" And Rosenstein lied to the face of the president. I interviewed the president for more than an hour in the Oval Office. He told me the whole story. It's in my book.
Greg, you also point out that Bob Mueller was a little bit doty, that he wasn't really in control of his faculties. Would you elaborate on that one?
Yeah, it's really amazing. A year before the Mueller report came out, in a meeting with Trump's lawyers, Bob Mueller confessed there was no evidence of collusion, but he refused to tell the American people. He refused to file an interim report. And I interviewed all of the lawyers on Trump's defense team, and they all agreed they were deeply concerned about the mental state of Bob Mueller. He was lost, confused, disoriented in their meetings. He didn't seem to understand basic questions or fundamentals of the law, like obstruction. And then, of course, a year and a half later, when Mueller testifies, it was like the Wizard of Oz, and the curtain was pulled back, and the vaunted reputation of Bob Mueller wasn't what we thought it was.
Well, back to have anybody been prosecuted? You've got these actors who were trying to destroy the President of the United States, and doing so under the guise of the FBI. Have any of them gone to jail for doing that?
Not yet. But as I write towards the end of the book, the only cure for a lie is the truth, and the only remedy for lawlessness is justice. A reckoning awaits, and it's happening as we speak. We expect any day now the Inspector General's report to come out. I think it will be a damning indictment of some of these actors I've named in the book. But more important than that, the Attorney General William Barr appointed a very fine U.S. Attorney John Durham to launch an investigation of how this could happen, how the President of the United States could be victimized like this and essentially held hostage for 2.5 years based on no evidence. We recently found out Durham has now expanded the probe, which, as a lawyer, tells me he's already found considerable evidence of corruption and potential crimes.
Well, now that Mueller report actually, a person is presumed innocent until he's proven guilty. But they were saying we can't find any evidence, but we don't know that he's innocent. I mean, you don't have to make a finding like that in anything.
You're right. Bob Mueller and his team of partisans created a legal standard that doesn't exist and never has existed. This so-called we cannot exonerate. It's not the job of a prosecutor to exonerate someone. So they were very clever in order to get around Supreme Court decisions. And I explain all of this in Chapter 5 of my book. What they did was they inverted the presumption of innocence and reversed the burden of proof. This is one of the most outrageous and unconscionable acts I've ever seen from a set of prosecutors. And, they did it to smear Trump. They knew he did not obstruct justice, and yet they were hoping that their Volume 2 smear would be used as a basis by Congress to impeach the president.
Well, all this goes back to that thing that Christopher Steele and that Fusion GPS, and that was paid for by the Democrats. Are these all linked together, these various occasions?
Absolutely. It turns out, of course, that Trump never colluded with Russia, but the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee did. They paid for Russian disinformation through an ex-British spy, Christopher Steele, that was used as the basis of the witch hunt. It's so amazing to me that the media, which were witting accessories to all of this, paid no attention to what Hillary Clinton did, but devoted all of their scrutiny to what Donald Trump did not do. Chapter 2 of the book is entitled Clinton Collusion, and it lays out the evidence and the documentation of how she was the financier of the witch hunt. The CIA Director John Brennan was the instigator, and the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, was the prodigious leaker. And we've just learned in the last 24 hours now that John Durham, who is leading Bill Barr's investigation, intends to interview both Clapper and Brennan. They have a lot to answer for.
Lastly, there's some anonymous person who's going to write an op-ed critical of the president, and the official is then writing a book. What does that tell you about the deep state?
The deep state is alive and well. I refer to them in my book as the malignant force. That's how I open the book. And, this anonymous individual lacks courage. It's an act of cowardice to try to smear the president anonymously. But, the deep force and the malignant force, they are alive and well today, and they are still trying to remove the president, undo the 2016 election results. And, this latest witch hunt, I call this now the Ukraine witch hunt, is utterly ludicrous. It's based on absolutely nothing. The Department of Justice Criminal Division looked at the conversation between Presidents Trump and Zelensky and concluded there's no crime here. So now through these secret hearings by Adam Schiff, Democrats are embracing this amorphous concept called abuse of power, which is nowhere in the Constitution and has no fixed meaning. Maybe they'll vote for impeachment. It will go nowhere in the U.S. Senate because those senators are wise to this act.
Well, Greg, I want to congratulate you on this book. This thing is voluminous. It is absolutely one of the most extraordinary books that's been written on this whole subject, witch hunt, and I hope many people get a chance to read it. Greg, thanks so much for being with us.
Many thanks for having me, Pat. Thank you.
Okay.